Alrighty guys, today we're going to talk all about retrogrades. We're going to talk about like what a retrograde is. We're going to talk about the different types of retrogrades, what you could and could not do, what you should or should not do, during a retrograde. Because contrary to popular belief, like you can still do things during retrogrades. In fact, you probably don't have the option to just hold off on everything until a retrograde is over. So we'll go over some of that stuff. Also, I'm going to go into like what areas of your life are possibly going to be affected during different retrogrades, what you want to look into. I have just finished my blog on this, so if you want to check that out, definitely do so, because there'll be a list, right? I might be able to put something up on one of these sides, but let's hop into it. Alrighty, so a retrograde is when, from our perspective, a planet seems to just stop in the sky and start to go backwards, right? And one thing that I really like doing with my channel or with my page is like showing the planets in real life. Like this is this planet and whatnot. Like I like doing that. I do it every once in a while because I think it's important to start connecting real life to like the charts and different things that we see in astrology, right? And one of those things that we can see like very clearly, if you go out and you actually look at the sky, is the progression of the planets, the like how fast the moon moves, and then how she comes in contact with different planets, and then continues on. Like I did a video not too long ago with like the moon conjunct Jupiter, and I didn't do a video right afterwards, but like literally the next day the moon was so far, and it's like this is how fast these planets move. And when it comes to like retrogrades, what we're seeing is like a planet progressing, and then after a while it seems to just kind of stop in the sky and then go back. And in real life that's not exactly what's happening. Like I should have a graphic up around here or something like that, showing like the orbits of the planets around the sun. And basically just because of the way that it lines up and the way that we can see it, it just kind of looks like the planet's going there, and then as it's turning around, like it's like, oh gosh, what's happening? Like this thing that's moving forward starts going back. And that's pretty much the way we experience that as well, is whatever planet is that's going retrograde, like its energies will start to get really intensified as it starts to slow down and get really, really like the energy gets really punctuated, right? And then it starts to go back, and that's typically when things start to go haywire. Depending on whatever the planet is, you've got different energies that are going to be involved with whatever it is that goes haywire. And a really interesting thing that I do want to just briefly touch on right now is, again, taking it back to like what we actually see in the skies, and different astrological meanings, is the morning and evening star phases of planets. Because if you've got a planet like here right now, if you go out just before sunrise, you'll see the brightest thing in the sky is Venus, but in a little bit she's going to be gone because she's going to get so close to the sun to where like you won't be able to see her, right? And eventually she's going to get to the point where she passes the sun, and then you're going to have to wait for the sun to go down before you can see her again. So basically the way it works right now is like Venus is coming up to the sun. Like the sun dictates what we see, like what is light, what is dark. Like the sun's up, it's daytime; if it's down, nighttime, right? Pretty simple. Well, right now Venus is coming up, she's in Scorpio and the sun is in Scorpio. Where whenever you're watching this, just understand like the concepts, right? Now the sun is here, and as he's coming up over the horizon, like it gets brighter and brighter, and it starts to like blank out whatever it is you can see. I'm pretty sure I have a video on my clock app that shows that as well. But so like as she gets closer, as she gets further and further into Scorpio, and she gets to the point where she's meeting up with the sun, you won't be able to see her anymore. And then there'll be a period of time where she's dark, you can't see her. It's like the new moon phase for the moon, right? And then after a while, because she's still continuing on, it'll you'll have to wait until we get to the sun setting, and then you'll see her at night. And like I won't go into it right now, but the energies of a morning star and an evening star planet are completely different. Um, and they help us understand some of the nuance. Like you guys, the way that traditional astrology is set up is just so beautiful. There's just so much greatness, and it helps understand and give meaning to a lot of the nuances that we have in our lives, right? So like if you want me to do a video on that, comment below because I can possibly do that soon. But like it's amazing to just think about the way that things are working out. And like typically what'll happen is with the retrograde is a planet can only get a certain distance from the sun before it has to turn around. So when it gets to that point, it turns around and you'll see a different phase of it, which is why we have evening and morning star phases of these planets, because they kind of switch up and their movement around the sun makes it to where we get different manifestations of these energies. Now let me go into some of the different planets that go retrograde, because all the planets go retrograde except for the sun and moon. Traditionally speaking, the sun and moon are considered as planets in astrology, and they're constantly going forward. However, from Mercury on, everything else goes retrograde at some point. And each of the planets gives you a different flavor, a different thing that they rule over that tends to go haywire when the planet goes retrograde, or the interaction or the way that the energies manifest here are different. Mercury retrograde, for example, is the most common retrograde that we hear about. Like, people that don't even pay attention to astrology have heard about Mercury retrogrades. Whether or not they understand what it is might be a different thing, but Mercury rules over things like communication, transportation. He rules over thoughts, writings, like details. And typically what will happen during a Mercury retrograde is there'll be a point where, like, Mercury stops and then starts to go back. So like a lot of those things that were done that are under the purview of Mercury start to get put into question. It's like it was going too fast, and then it's like, oh gosh, I think I forgot something. There's something that's just not right. So Mercury starts going back and helps you retrack and re go over these steps to where you can find whatever it is that's not right. And then as Mercury turns around to start going forward again, you get a point where like you're actually starting to understand things and you're able to continue on, right? Big things to think about when Mercury is retrograde are what is it that he rules over, and then what is it that you're doing that's possibly under the purview of Mercury's energies. Like if you're signing contracts, contracts are also under the energies of Saturn. But if you're signing contracts, there might be details that are missed. There might be something that like you forget to sign something, or there's a page that's missing. There's something that's possibly not right. So you want to just double, triple, quadruple check, because again, you can't always just not do things when there's a retrograde. Not always an option, right? So that's what you want to think about when we're talking about Mercury. Also understand that with Mercury, there's a good chance of miscommunications or like missed emails and things like that. Like something might be missed, and it'll end up getting to a point where likely it'll be brought back up at some point, and then later on you can get it cleared out. It's just it causes delays, and delays are another really big retrograde theme. Delays in whatever energies. Also, some people may deal with car issues with Mercury retrogrades, especially if Mercury happens to rule over like your third house or something like that. Venus retrogrades. We get Venus, well, first off, Venus rules over things like beauty. She rules over attraction. She rules over like values, worth, self-worth even. And she rules over things that like kind of bring people together, right? Or bring things together. She like creates balance and harmony. And when she goes backwards, things that she rules over also tend to go haywire. We have the issue with like maybe breakups, maybe people from your past coming back, because again, it's like going backwards. Those relationships are coming back. And like one thing that I really like to highlight during this time is that like it does happen, especially for certain people, like depending on like Venus's role and what she plays in your life, because each planet rules over something specific for you. I'll go over that later. But like if she's ruling over something and you do have a relationship come back, like I want you to keep in mind that Venus rules over your values. She rules over your worth. And like we had a Venus retrograde earlier this year, and like it was really interesting to me because we had just like a cascade, like a symphony of retrogrades, and they were just helping us understand different aspects of ourselves in different ways. And the Venus retrograde was really doing what she could to help you get in touch with what your worth is, what you really value. And like we will see that possibly during that time there were different alliances and different like worldwide things that were changed that will end up playing a role in the future. But like those are the different things that happen when you got Venus going retrograde. Like social norms and whatnot also have a tendency to kind of change and be reshaped, and that's what we get with retrograde energies. Things are subject to change. All right, so when Venus is retrograde, understand there's a chance of somebody coming back. There's a really good like your ability to work within yourself and like figure out your worth and figure out who you are. Like who you are, depends. But like what your values are definitely can be heightened during that time. If you're using a Venus retrograde for that, perfect, right? Next up is Mars. Mars rules over anger, frustration, drive, personal drive, like the things that actually motivate us to do things. Like that's Mars, right? And yes, he also rules over like defense, offense, like just like war in general. And when Mars goes retrograde, we start to see a lot of the energies that he rules over also come back into question. Things are subject for change. And there's a chance that maybe like something happens that will make it to where you rethink or have to redo things, or like your relationship to those energies gets changed during this time. The world's relationship to those energies get changed during a retrograde. We just had a brutal Mars retrograde, 2024 to 2025, and boy was it out of control. It changed a lot of things. And again, if we're looking at a retrograde, if we use the energies for what they're best for, we can gain something from them. Otherwise, like if you're working against the current, if you're working against the natural cycles and patterns of the universe, it might be harder for you. So make sure that you pay attention to what you've got going on, what planet is retrograde, and like later on I'll go into more detail about other things you can do. But like Mars rules over drive, he rules over desires, he rules over anger, frustration, protection, defense, and things like that. So like during times where Mars is retrograde, those things come into question. Now Jupiter rules over things like luck, expansion, growth. He also is very much connected to like our perception, our like our view, our philosophy, the way that we see things, right? And during times that Jupiter goes retrograde, we're really kind of brought in, and it goes a lot more inward. And yes, some of these things may go out of control. Maybe there's like unchecked growth or things like that. Like there are different things that can happen during a retrograde where like these energies are again thrown off. Like it's not operating as normal. And during those Jupiter retrogrades, a lot of times people are drawn in, especially if you've got Jupiter in like a feminine sign going backwards, like it's doubling up on those energies, and a lot of things where you might be able to see or get some enlightenment if you're working towards it, towards who you are and different things about yourself and your inner world, or that inner workings of wherever Jupiter is in your chart. Also expect that like since Jupiter also rules over like foreign lands, foreign things, and like long distance travel, things like that, like there's a chance that those things may also experience delays. Next up is Saturn. Saturn is a planet that I think needs to get more respect than what he actually gets. Like, yes, there's a lot of fear that goes into Saturn because Saturn rules over harder energies. Saturn rules over like structures. He rules over like reality, time, rules over like boundaries, barriers, and things that kind of like set limits, right? And when Saturn goes retrograde, like a lot of that stuff goes back, and like we have to like reevaluate barriers, we have to reevaluate borders, boundaries. um, this will happen within different people's relationships and whatnot, or within their lives, where like they start to realize different things that are off about their boundaries. They start to realize, I need to set better boundaries, I need to get a better like relationship to my boundaries. But during this time, like you may be dealing with things where people are constantly just going over your boundaries. They're overstepping, and it kind of like brings these energies to the forefront for you, to where you're able to figure out, okay, this is what I need to work on, so when Saturn goes forward again, you can do so. Speaking of retrogrades, I just had a retrograde issue. Thought I was recording it. It literally stopped because I ran out of space, and so now I have to re-record part of this. Luckily, like I was able to see the end of where it stopped. So now we're gonna talk about the outer planets, and it sucks. Like I'm not a fan of like talking about the retrogrades of the outer planets, because more than anything I like to focus on like the point where they station retrograde, and then when they station to go direct. Like those are the important things, because a lot of times with the outer planets, like their energies are working on such a level to where like it's hard for us to perceive them in the first place. And the way that they work throughout our lives is just The energies require a lot of times something else to happen to kind of like spark that and bring it into our consciousness, right? Bring it to the forefront for us. So like I will very briefly go over this, not as much as I did in the last one, but like we've got Uranus who rules over like that impulsivity. It rules over like the desire for freedom, for liberation, authenticity, right? And during the times that he goes retrograde, also he rules over electricity. You guys, here in Las Vegas, like when Uranus was going retrograde, I didn't realize that was happening at the time. But like there was this really weird thing where like these clouds were just like sitting in the sky and there's just like constant like electricity, there's constant lightning, right? No sounds, no nothing, and it was just like there in the background and they sat still for hours. That is super not normal. Super not normal. And I was just like, what the F? What is going on here? But yeah, that right there was just, it was weird, right? Um, so like you'll pay attention to the times where the planet stations that go backward, when it stations that go forward. We will also possibly be seeing later on, or especially when different things go over these points that Uranus was at, um, like how there are different movements and different things where people are fighting for freedom, fighting for liberation, or they're fighting against like tyranny or whatever the case is. Like these are different things that we're going to see on the worldwide scale. Next up is going to be Neptune. Neptune rules over water, you guys. If you look back at what was happening, what happened around the time that Neptune stationed retrograde, like, again, the stations are going to be important points and they're going to show you something that will possibly play a part in whatever we see later on. So look at around July 4th of this year when Neptune stationed retrograde. Next up, we've got Pluto. Pluto rules over like obsession, secrecy. He rules over like the dark stuff and transformation, and like transformation, not in the sense like a lot of astrologers talk about it, transformation, and they don't really go into the depth of like what that transformation is. And people that are experiencing Pluto things like truly get in touch with like just how devastating it can seem and how much it breaks you down. But I think that it's important to think of like the phoenix, or to think about a caterpillar where you've got like uh, the phoenix that gets burnt down as ashes and then is reborn, or the caterpillar that gets into the cocoon, like as gets into like a crystalline form and on the inside gets turned into mush and then later on has to struggle to get out, and that makes it to where like he's got the ability to fly and it's just a whole different being, right? Like that's what we have going on. You Aquarius people, my I'm here for you. Like I'm feeling for you. Um, and a lot of what we have to keep in mind is that, like, you guys, when we've got these planets that are going in retrograde and whatnot, we have a ability to work with them differently. A lot of the stuff that's happening is like the energies are in flux. They're not working normally. So like you can take this time to like process and think about what needs to be changed wherever these planets are. And that will help you do so. Like this is what the energy is really good for when we have retrogrades, is figuring out what it is that's going on so you can go back and then reconfigure things, change things, right? Retrograde changes things. And as like time progresses, we're getting to a point where like a lot of the flux in this stuff that we're going through right now is going to stop, and these planets are going to start going forward and they're going to start moving to a point where like our ability to change things is going to be like a lot different. So for those of you who want to get readings, like do it sooner rather than later, please. Like I keep saying this because it's very important. Times are changing, all right? And preparing yourself for the big changes and the big things that are happening can truly make a difference. So if you want to reach out, like you got that right there, all right? Now, I'm going to go into really briefly the houses and different things that you can expect. Oh, that's another thing I went over, didn't I? I went over which areas of life were, no. You guys, the retrogrades suck sometimes, but I should have known it. So let me do this really quickly. Now, what's going to be really important for you is where exactly in your life is this going to be playing out, right? Let me check to make sure this is still recording. It is, cool. All right, so now you're going to want to figure out where exactly these planets, like whatever planet is going retrograde, what it rules over, because you're going to want to look at that to see what exactly you're looking at, where in your life is going to be changed, and it's going to be like depending on which signs a planet rules over. I'm going to go through all of them really quickly here, and I probably will have something up on one of these sides, right? Next up, Mercury rules over Gemini and Virgo. Next up is Venus, who rules over Taurus and Libra. Next up is Mars, who traditionally rules over Aries and Scorpio. Again, look back to that time of last year and up to like it's a really extended period of time because Mars is so far out and his retrograde moves differently than like Mercury, who goes retrograde all the time and is so fast, right? Look at what was happening in that Scorpio area of your life and see the different changes in how like the retrograde was really affecting that part of life, right? Next up, we've got Jupiter, who rules over traditionally Sagittarius and Pisces. Again, Jupiter has recently stationed to go retrograde, and Jupiter is retrograde now at the time that I'm recording this. So you might actually be able to see like what you have going on in that Pisces area of your life if you aren't necessarily on board with the traditional rulership scheme. But like those are the areas that Jupiter rules over. And then next up will be Saturn, who rules over Capricorn and Aquarius. And Saturn's going to be stationing to go direct here soon. So like this is again like these energies are moving. You pay attention to these different areas of your life because I want you to start applying astrology in your life, not just listening to us say things to you. Like learn how to actually connect the dots for yourself. That way you can really apply astrology because we don't know how much longer we're going to be able to talk about these things. We don't know how the world is going to change with the different things that are happening. And I want to do what I can to prepare people to really be able to use this to the best of their abilities. And then also it's kind of good for you to just be able to have like another tool to kind of gain perspective on your life and then continue on, right? So keep that in mind. Next up, you're going to want to know what exactly the different areas of your life that are being ruled by these signs, like what exactly is represented by each house, right? I'm going to really briefly go over that too. So hopefully I'll have a list up here as well. All right, we've got the first house, rules over identity, self, body. First house is also like your life trajectory because it kind of sets up everything. That's the point where you've got your ascendant. When you use whole sign houses like I do, it sets up where all the energies of the rest of the planets are going to play out for your life, right? Second house talks about your finances, talks about like your relationship with your finances, what you like to spend your money on, how you get your money, and what your mindset possibly is around your funds or how that really is playing out in your life. Third house would be communication, be siblings, aunts, uncles, grandparents for some people, your neighborhood, communication, and just like that stuff that you interact with like on a day-to-day, like that usual stuff. Fourth house would be your heritage, your parents, your home. Sometimes when you have fourth house things that are happening, it literally affects your home. Like if there's Uranus transiting your fourth house or your IC, then there's a chance that you could move or something like that. Something happens, some type of change happens in your home. Next up, we've got fifth house, which is talking about like kids, things that you bring into this world, things that you create, things that you do for fun, people you do for fun, like that, things that you do to enjoy the sensual things in life and whatnot. Like that's fifth house stuff. Sixth house, we've got work, we've got day-to-day routines, your diet, and different things dealing with like possible physical ailments and things that come about from like day-to-day wear and tear sometimes. You also have in this area your pets and people that are under your employ, people that work for you, even if it's just one-off things. Like if you're contracting a contractor or something like that, then that right there would be this area of life. Seventh house is where you've got people that are on your level, and we're talking about like fifth house, you've got flings possibly or like relationships that are just like kind of dating or whatever. Seventh house is where you've got like those longer relationships, the deeper ones. You've got marriage partners. You also have like your business partners and clients in the seventh house. So I want to make sure that I touch on that because I don't always talk about that. Eighth house is where we've got things like death. We've got taxes, death and taxes. Other people's money, other people's funds, like even your partner's funds, eighth house stuff, right? Inheritance is also big eighth house thing. Eighth house also deals with like traumas and different things that possibly need to be resolved. It also deals with occult things, and because it's in a place that like isn't seen by the ascendant, you've got a lot of occult things and people that have a lot of like psychic energies and different things like that. Like a lot of them have different eighth house things going on. Ninth house talks about philosophy, spirituality, religion. Legal things also show up here. And I always forget about the legal thing whenever I'm doing like the general readings. Like I forget about the legal side of things, but it's definitely here as well in the ninth house. You also have things like foreign lands, foreign people, as well as like the way that you see those things. Foreign travel also, or like long distance travel, very implicated in ninth house. 10th house, we were talking about like your career, your public image, and that side of things. So like the fourth house is like that basic foundational stuff in your life. 10th house is like the public side, right? 11th house is talking about friends, alliances, your audience. If you're a creator, then fifth house is what you create. The 11th house is like your audience, right? 11th house also is very much dealing with like your aspirations and like what you want to do, like your goals, right? And I never mentioned that, but it's because it's on its way up to that 10th house section of your life, which is like your achievements and things that you actually do. Like ninth house is like you working up to that, right? And then we've got 11th house is you working up to it. Now, 12th house is a more difficult one because it's the joy of Saturn. It's a place where like you're talking about isolation, self-destructive tendencies, and like maybe things that like kind of keep you separate from society. Like exiles were a thing back in the day, but like maybe now it could be like being sent off to prison or being institutionalized or something like that. But it can also be used a different way. Whereas like people that do like that go to like monasteries or something like that, where again they're kind of separate. Y'all, 12 house stuff. I was working doing Uber up in Reno, and brothels are definitely also another one of those things because like they can't be in that they can't be within the city limits here in Nevada. Like I'm from a really weird state, but yeah, like it's separate from society. So like 12th house things, not everybody's going to deal with that, but I thought it was really interesting. So you have like temples and brothels and represented in the same place. Anyways, those are the areas of life that you are going to look at. Now, as far as like connecting the dots, like, okay, well, me personally, I am a Leo rising. Mercury just went retrograde in my fifth house in Sagittarius. So that's me thinking fifth house Sagittarius, different things that are happening with Mercury right now, and different like lessons that are learned and things that are revised are going to be affecting very directly the houses that are ruled by Mercury, which are the signs that are ruled by Mercury. We've got Virgo, which rules over my second house, and Gemini, which rules over my 11th house. That means that for me personally, it will likely be affecting my finances, affecting like my financial situation, as well as my audiences, friends, and things like that, like my communities. Those two areas are linked. So whatever it is that's happening with my creations is going to be affecting like these other areas of my life. It works, it checks, right? So that's what I want you to do is like see where the planet goes retrograde, what the planet is, and what areas of your life are being affected as well. All right. Um, I'm gonna close this up right now because I actually have to go. I really do hope that this has helped somebody. Like, let me know if it's resonating. Let me know if you learned something new. Like, just let me know, all right? Um, and then also let me know if you want me to do that video. I think it was like talking about the different phases. You guys, there's so much beauty in the way that things were set up traditionally. Like, I get it. Like I still use like the modern planets and a lot of my stuff because like like they're important. Like they're here for our times for a reason, right? It's just there's also so much beauty and so much like poetry and like it works out when you look at the traditional way of doing things because like that evening star, morning star thing. Also, we've got sect, which is day chart, night chart. There's so much that can help you understand so much and if you're following me, I really do want you to be able to learn as much as you possibly can. So I'm going to be doing videos to teach you. And like I will do things that will help you understand different nuances. And if it works for you, great. If it doesn't, let it go. Like just leave it alone. All right. But as far as retrogrades are concerned, what you want to do, anything dealing with like the reevaluating, redoing, reviewing, or like those things during retrograde times, great. Trying to force things forward when there is a retrograde might be a little more complicated. Again, you can't always stop things. You can't always like put your life on hold. But if there's a possibility where you can work with it a little bit, maybe that might be a thing to think about, especially if you're talking about something really important. Something I mentioned in my blog is that it would be a good idea for you to reach out to an astrologer who works with electional astrology if you want to start something like a wedding or a business or something like that, so you can set up the best birth chart for your event or your thing possible. All right, that it works with the same concept. That's how they used to found cities and things like that. Like astrology is a big deal, and it's been used for a lot, not just like psychological things, even though I like the psychological approach as well. All right, really quickly, times for you to pay attention to the very most. I also have been a person who've noticed that like when planets move or things move into certain signs, it activates that house. So you want to pay attention to, as far as like the full retrograde cycle, when a planet enters into the sign that it will retrograde back to. If it stays in the same sign, great, that sign. If it goes back to another sign, that sign. Like when it enters there, you will start to see themes, right? When the planet hits the point where it will go back to, that is when it enters its shadow. You want to pay attention to this point, because whatever happens from that point to when that planet goes retrograde is possibly going to be put into question. There's a chance that something will come up and change that situation, right? So you've got that. Also, when the planet stations to go retrograde, that's an exclamation point. Pay attention to that point. The planet will eventually come up to the point where it's between us and the sun or on the other side. And this is going to be a point where like the planet is Kazemi at the heart of the sun, and it receives a new mission call. It gets its energies renewed, just like with the new moon. Like there's that renewal, right? And then afterwards, the planet's going to continue on and have to swoop around. So it's going to station again and start to go forward. Things to think about during these times: when the planet is going through its shadow, there's always a chance that whatever happens during the shadow time needs to be revisited. Planet goes retrograde, we're going to start going back over things. When the planet hits that point of being Kazemi, you get some type of insight, something comes through. Definitely pay attention to this point. And then when the planet starts going forward, you start to have more progress. And like for me, the retrograde doesn't end until that planet leaves that sign. At the very least, like let it pass over the degree that it went retrograde at, so you can kind of finish up like that area of things. But still, while the planet is still in that sign that it went retrograde in, there's still that retrograde energy active within that sign. If that makes sense for you. All right, let me know if this made sense. Let me know if like this resonated. Let me know if you're seeing any of these things. Legitimately, guys, pay attention to different retrogrades because they teach us so much. That it's about connecting our cycles and patterns. Retrogrades form parts of these cycles and patterns and can help us connect to past times. It can help us connect to different things that maybe we missed as we're going about our regular life. Disruptive, yes, but at the same time can be used for really good things. All right, so keep that in mind. Share this with anybody you think could like be benefited from it. Make sure that you're following me so that you can catch future videos, because we're going to keep things going. All right, this Mercury retrograde right now is out of control. Can't wait till I do a video on that. All right, peace. Thank you for watching.